My name is Amelia. I'm 27 years old. The summer my mother died, the house never really cooled down. The air conditioner kept rattling through the hallway vent, coughing out weak, dusty air that smelled like old filters, damp drywall, and heat that had nowhere to go. Bitter coffee sat too long on the warmer in the kitchen. Mom's perfume still lived in the dining room curtains, faint but stubborn, like she had just walked past, and might come back if I stayed still enough. The necklace disappeared on a Thursday afternoon. I found the jewelry box open on the dining table beside sympathy cards, a probate folder, 3 unpaid electric bills, and a pen that had rolled into the crease of an old tablecloth. By sunset, my sister had already let our aunt believe I took it. It was a gold necklace, heavy, old-fashioned, and not the kind of thing anybody my age would call stylish. It had a small oval locket worked into the center, and Mom used to touch it when she was thinking, like her fingers trusted it more than words. She told us more than once that it was not to be split, not to be melted down, not to be traded, not to be pawned. That necklace stays in the family whole, she said. And then, looking at both of us, promise me. I promised. Vanessa promised too. But Vanessa had a way of saying things that made them sound beautiful for exactly as long as she needed them to. Our house sat on a narrow street in a tired little town outside Dayton, Ohio. Split level, brown siding, cracked driveway, rust at the gutters, trimmed hedges out front because on our block people liked pretending upkeep meant control. The HOA still sent passive-aggressive letters about trash bins and lawn height, even while casseroles were coming through our front door because somebody on the street had just buried her mother. Mom had been dead 11 days. 11 days of folded hands and lowered voices. 11 days of paper plates, funeral flowers, and relatives who cried hardest where they could be seen. 11 days of forms, account closures, church calls, thank you notes, probate appointments, insurance questions, and the strange American violence of having to become efficient while your grief is still warm. I handled the county paperwork. I handled the funeral home invoice. I handled the Social Security call. I handled the DMV transfer packet for Mom's car. I handled the probate intake because Vanessa said administrative things gave her anxiety. What gave me anxiety was hearing her say that while I stood in line under fluorescent lights holding a folder so damp from my hands it had started bending at the corners. Vanessa was 6 years older than me. 33. Beautiful in a deliberate way. Glossed lips, smooth voice, ironed linen pants in August. Hair that always looked done even when she claimed she had been too overwhelmed to sleep. She knew how to enter a room looking composed enough that everyone else immediately looked messier by comparison. Relatives loved that about her. They called it strength. I called it staging. I noticed the jewelry box because the lid was tilted wrong. Mom never left it like that. She kept it closed tight. Always. The box was lacquered wood, dark and worn, scratched near the hinge, with a soft patch of water damage in one corner from a leak we had years ago upstairs. In our house, objects carried history. Nothing was just a thing. Everything had a story pressed into it somewhere. I walked toward the table and knew before I fully saw it. That hollow feeling hit first, the shape of something missing. Inside the box were her clip-on earrings, a broken charm bracelet, 2 church pins, and the velvet indentation where the necklace should have been. The blue velvet had a pale line in it from years of pressure. The necklace had rested there so long that even its absence looked settled. I called Vanessa first because she was upstairs in Mom's bedroom, sorting blouses. "Where's the necklace?" I said. She came down too fast, too ready. That was what got me first. Not confusion, not alarm, not what necklace. A readiness. "What necklace?" she asked anyway. "Mom's necklace." She stopped at the bottom step, folded her arms, and I watched the expression arrive. The slight frown, the careful inhale, the face she used when she wanted to look patient with difficult people. "Amelia, seriously?" That word. Seriously. Not what happened. Not let me look. Not maybe Aunt Cora moved it, just that. Immediate irritation. Like I had interrupted a script she had already rehearsed. I lifted the jewelry box. It's gone. She stepped closer, glanced inside, and gave this tiny shrug so controlled it made my stomach tighten. Then somebody moved it. Who? You were down here all morning. There it was. Not a direct accusation yet, just placement. A seed, dropped cleanly. And Aunt Cora came in from the back porch, holding a glass of sweet tea, and caught only the last part. What's going on? Vanessa turned toward her, and I swear I saw it happen. Those damp, wide eyes, the softness, the concern. She could summon it like flipping on a lamp. Mom's necklace is missing, she said quietly. Aunt Cora looked from Vanessa to me, then to the jewelry box, then back to me again. That look left a bruise, not words, direction. I laughed once because if I didn't, I was going to shake. It was here yesterday. Vanessa touched Aunt Cora's elbow. Amelia's been under a lot of pressure. Under a lot of pressure. Not innocent, not mistaken, just unstable enough. Aunt Cora put her glass down on the counter. Honey, she said to me, gentle as a knife, if you moved it somewhere safe, just say that. That sentence still lives under my skin. Not did you take it. Not help us understand. Just come on, make this easy for us. Give us the confession that lets everyone stay comfortable. I looked at Vanessa then, really looked at her, and for the first time since Mom died, I felt something colder than grief. This wasn't impulsive. This had edges. By dinner, Uncle Roy knew. By 9 o'clock, my cousin Beth knew. By the next morning, my grandmother called and asked if I had done something stupid in grief. Vanessa never screamed. She never pointed. She never had to. She just got there first. That's the thing about family bias. It usually doesn't arrive wearing a villain's face. It comes dressed as concern. I had been the messier daughter once. Not cruel, not dangerous, just easier to remember in the wrong light. And I dropped out of college for 1 semester after Dad left. I cried too hard one Thanksgiving and said out loud that Vanessa liked being praised for chores she never did. I waitressed. I rented a cramped apartment with bad pipes. I dated a man Mom hated. People store little facts like that. Then years later, when they need a version of you that fits the story in front of them, they pull those facts back out and call it pattern. Vanessa, meanwhile, had an HR title at a regional dental supply company and a beige townhouse with potted mums out front. She once returned a Starbucks drink because the foam was wrong and somehow got the barista apologizing to her. People confused that kind of composure with moral authority. Mom and I had gotten close in the last 3 years, closer than Vanessa liked. After Dad vanished into his second life in Arizona, something in Mom softened toward me. Maybe loneliness did it. Maybe age. Maybe she got tired of pretending I was always the harder daughter, just because I was easier to hear when I hurt. She started calling me after my shifts. I brought groceries. I fixed her printer. I drove her to urgent care when pneumonia scared us. I sat with her through late-night movies and bad weather and all those quiet evenings that never feel important until they're gone. Vanessa texted that she was swamped. Vanessa texted that work was insane. Vanessa texted she would come Sunday. Sometimes Sunday never came. Mom almost never said anything cruel about Vanessa. She preferred silence to direct criticism. But 6 weeks before she died, she touched the necklace and said something that didn't make sense to me then. Some daughters want love, she said. Some want witnesses. I asked her what that meant. She smiled a little. Then she asked if I had remembered to water the tomato plants. After the accusation started spreading, I did what innocent people do when they still believe truth has speed. I explained. Too much. Too fast. I retraced my day out loud. The kitchen, the laundry room, the probate folder, the notary appointment, the Walmart pharmacy pickup, the utility receipts in my purse, every stupid, ordinary thing I had done. The more I explained, the guiltier I sounded. Not because I had anything to hide, because panic has terrible timing. Vanessa stayed calm. "Nobody is attacking you," she said, which is exactly the kind of sentence people use while tightening the rope. That Saturday, Aunt Cora suggested we all search the house together. Soft voice, sad eyes, like maybe grief had made me do something irrational, and I had simply forgotten. Vanessa agreed too quickly, so they searched. Mom's bedroom, the hall closet, the garage shelves, my old room, the laundry cabinets, even my overnight bag by the front door. They didn't find the necklace, because the necklace wasn't there. What they did find were 2 past-due credit card notices addressed to me and a folded copy of my apartment lease. I had brought them over to compare utility dates with Mom's bills and forgotten to move them. Suddenly, my finances became part of the atmosphere. Uncle Roy held one envelope between 2 fingers and said, "Guess you should have asked for help." I could hear the judgment hiding under the concern. I did not steal from my mother. Vanessa came up behind me and rubbed my back once, for an audience. "Nobody wants this to get uglier," she said. I remember thinking then, with this weird, hard clarity, grief doesn't reveal character. It strips the wallpaper. I didn't say it out loud, not yet. At that point, I was still trying to survive the room. That night, I sat alone in Mom's kitchen with the lights off except for the stove hood. Street light came through the half-closed blinds in pale stripes across the floor. The stale coffee smell had gone sour. The fridge hummed. A dog barked somewhere down the block. Somebody's TV leaked through an open window outside. Life kept moving in other houses. Mine had stalled. I sat there looking at that empty place on the table, and something in me stopped begging for fairness. That part just ended. They had already picked the version of me they preferred. So I got quiet. Not weak, not done. Focused. I opened the Notes app on my phone and wrote down everything I could remember. Exact times, exact wording. Who heard what first, who repeated it, where Vanessa was standing when I asked about the necklace. What she said before Aunt Cora entered, what she was wearing, the look on her face, the sequence of the room. When nobody thinks to preserve the truth, memory becomes evidence. The next morning I went back into Mom's bedroom. Not for the necklace. For signs. Vanessa had been sorting clothes up there when I called for her, but the dresser top looked too neat. The closet had 3 empty hangers shoved behind winter coats. On the carpet near the dresser, there was a faint rectangular dust mark where Mom's small fireproof document box had been moved and put back slightly off-center. There was no reason to move that box. I crouched beside the bed, slid it out, and opened it. Inside were her insurance papers, will copy, property deed, bank statements, and a sealed white envelope with my name written on it. Just my name. Amelia. Not my girl's. Not to be opened by both daughters. Mine. My fingers actually went numb opening it. The paper inside was folded twice. Mom's handwriting leaned harder near the bottom where chemo had weakened her grip. I sat on the edge of her bed and read the first line once, then again, then a third time because my eyes were filling too fast. Amelia. If you're reading this before probate, then something has gone wrong. I felt the room tilt. I read the whole letter 3 times sitting there on her bed with the vent rattling in the hallway, and the smell of her face cream still faint in the room like a ghost that hadn't decided whether to leave. She wrote that the necklace had belonged to her grandmother, then her mother, then her. She wrote that the locket had 2 tiny photo compartments and a hidden paper sleeve most people never noticed. She wrote that inside that sleeve was information connected to a small account she had set aside to help with the house taxes if I chose to keep the property. Then she wrote that she wanted the necklace to pass to me specifically. Not because Vanessa mattered less. Because, in Mom's words, I knew the weight of keeping things together. Oh, I just sat there staring at that line. Then the cold set in. Vanessa had not just taken jewelry, she had taken an heirloom with instructions attached. And before I even knew that, she had already built the room so I would be the one standing inside the accusation. I took pictures of every page. Then I pulled out the will copy and read it again, slower this time. It said sentimental items would be distributed according to a handwritten memorandum if located among Mom's private papers. The memorandum was gone, not misplaced, removed. I checked the box lining. Under the false bottom, there was nothing but dust and the faintest clean rectangle where another sheet had once been. Something had been taken recently. That afternoon, Vanessa sent a message to the family group chat. We should all stay gentle with each other. Mom wouldn't want blame. I stared at the screen so long it dimmed in my hand. That almost impressed me. She had started the suspicion herself, then stepped into the role of peacemaker. I didn't answer the message. I started with money. Vanessa had been saying for weeks that she was barely covering gas and groceries after missing work during Mom's last hospital stretch. But the Tuesday before the necklace went missing, I had seen a printed itinerary on the kitchen counter when I came in with groceries. Palm leaves in the header. Miami. 3 nights. Oceanfront. She folded it before I could read more. At the time, I let it go. Now I didn't. I opened Mom's laptop because Vanessa had used Mom's Wi-Fi and printer all the time and never bothered logging out of anything properly. I checked the printer queue history. Said 2 documents had been printed that Tuesday morning. One was a hospice invoice. The other was an airline boarding confirmation PDF with the first part of Vanessa's email visible in the file cache. I took a picture of the screen. Then I checked the trash in Mom's office. At the very bottom, under tissue paper and a legal pad wrapper, I found part of an envelope from a pawn shop 20 minutes away. Crown gold and loan. My pulse didn't race. It steadied. That scared me more than panic would have. Fear had burned itself out. What was left was clearer. On Monday morning, I drove to the pawn shop in a strip mall beside a vape store and a tax service. The bell over the glass door jingled when I stepped in. The place smelled like metal, dust, lemon cleaner, and old air conditioning. Guitars on one wall, chains and watches in a lit case, tools hanging behind the counter. A man in his 50s looked up from a stool. "Can I help you?" I put a printed photo on the glass counter. It was a Christmas picture from 2 winters earlier, Mom smiling in front of the tree wearing the necklace. "This may have been sold here this week," I said. "It belonged to my mother. She died recently. It was taken from the family home." He looked at the photo, then at me, then back at the photo. "We can't hand over customer information." "I'm not asking you to, I'm asking if you recognize it." His mouth stayed neutral. His eyes did not. "If it came in," he said carefully, "there'd be paperwork." "Would there be ID?" "Everything gets logged." "Then I can get it through a report." That shifted something in him. He glanced past me toward the parking lot, where the black dress from a condolence visit still hung over the back seat of my car because I hadn't had the energy to bring it inside yet. Then he slid a business card across the counter. "Ask for the transaction hold desk when you file," he said. I stared at the card. That was enough. At the police substation, the officer on duty gave me the same look I had already started to hate. Half skeptical, half tired. Family dispute. He was already hoping this would dissolve before it became paperwork. "You have proof it was stolen?" "I have reason to believe estate property was sold without legal authority during open probate." That changed his face a little. He sat up. "Whose property is the house?" "Still under estate review. Probate court hearing next month. At County Clerk Case number 2024-17823. I said the number from memory because I had filed the packet myself. Grief had made me tired, not vague. He wrote slower after that, then faster when I showed him Mom's letter and the will language. He couldn't seize anything immediately, but he gave me an incident number and said if the estate attorney opened a theft claim fast enough, the hold might prevent resale. I walked out to the parking lot and called Mom's probate attorney from the car. Linda Mercer. Brisk, expensive, worth it. She listened once. No wasted sympathy, no slow concern, just law. Email me the letter now, she said, and do not confront your sister yet. What if she already sold it? Then let her keep talking, Linda said. People who think they're safe get careless. That sentence became the handrail I held for the next several days. I didn't confront Vanessa. I watched her. That seemed to bother her more. She started texting more often, too often. The kind of casual that arrives with sweaty hands underneath it. You okay? Aunt Cora is worried. Please don't spiral. Spiral. That word told me everything about where she still thought I belonged. Below her. The unstable one. The one who could be explained away. I stopped sending paragraphs back. I answered in one line, sometimes not at all. Silence unsettled her. Then the first real crack came from somewhere I didn't expect. Beth called me Tuesday night from a Target parking lot. I didn't want to say this before, she said. Say it now. She lowered her voice. Vanessa asked me last week if pawn shops report cash over certain amounts and whether old jewelry needs appraisal paperwork. I closed my eyes. Last week when? Before the memorial, Beth said. I thought she was asking for somebody at work. I wrote down every word. Then Beth added quieter. She also told me you'd been weird about money lately. Before the necklace was even reported missing, before the open box, before the performance. She had seeded the story first. That was the moment I understood the theft hadn't begun with the necklace. It had begun with rehearsal. I asked Beth if anyone else was there. Marisol, she said, Vanessa's friend. She heard it too. I wrote down the name. By Wednesday, Linda called back. Her paralegal had pulled the transaction confirmation through the estate inquiry route. Yeah, the necklace had been pawned 2 days before I discovered it was missing. 2 days. Vanessa sold it before I ever opened the box. Seller ID matched her driver's license. Payout, $3,800. I leaned against the kitchen counter so hard the edge dug into my back. Linda kept going. There's more. The same date, a payment in the same amount hit a travel agency booking for a Miami package. Vanessa Kerr and one companion. One companion? I asked for the name. Linda paused. Then she gave it to me. Ethan Doyle. Vanessa's supervisor, married. I just stood there in Mom's kitchen with the bad vent noise and the stale coffee smell and that cheap notepad from the funeral home still on the table, and I felt this horrible split happen inside me. Not desperation, not a grief break, not some drunken lapse. At a secret trip with a married boss, financed by our dead mother's necklace, I made it to the downstairs bathroom before I threw up. Then I sat on the tile with my back against the tub while the exhaust fan buzzed overhead and a train moved somewhere far off beyond the neighborhood. I thought about calling her, just saying his name, just to hear what her breathing did. I didn't. I was done arriving early to my own pain. The next few days taught me something ugly about families. When they wound the wrong person, they don't rush toward truth first. They rush toward comfort. Aunt Cora started sending me recipes and devotionals. Uncle Roy offered to help me budget. My grandmother asked if I had prayed for peace. Nobody said, "We were too quick to believe this about you." Nobody said, "We did damage." Vanessa kept performing concern. She brought Panera soup over in a reusable bag and left it on the counter like we were still two grieving daughters doing our best. Her voice was soft. Her face was perfect. "We should stick together," she said. I looked at her. "How is Miami?" Her hand froze on the bag handle. Just a second, but a second is a lifetime when you finally started watching correctly. "I have no idea what you mean." Okay. That was all I said. Okay. Nothing scares a liar like calm. She stared at me harder after that, measuring, rebuilding, trying to figure out how much of the floor had gone missing beneath her. That night, I checked Mom's phone records. I had access because I was the one closing the account after the death notification. Vanessa had called Mom's number twice after Mom died. And once the morning before the necklace was sold. Why call a dead woman's phone? Because Mom's phone was still inside the house. Because Vanessa wanted to know whether I was there, whether the timing held, whether the room was empty enough for what she planned. I downloaded the logs, then I found the messages, not on Vanessa's phone, on Mom's old iPad. Months before, Vanessa had signed into her iCloud on it to set up grocery delivery for Mom and never properly disconnected. Most of the apps were stale, but message fragments had still synced in. Not full conversations. Fragments. Enough. Booked. Thursday to Sunday. Need cash by Wednesday. She'll take the fall if it comes up. I stared at that line until the words blurred. She'll take the fall. Not maybe. Not if I have to. Not worst case. She'll. For one quiet, terrible second, I mourned Vanessa the way people mourn somebody still alive, not her exactly. The possibility that I had ever really had a sister. The hardest funerals are not always the ones with caskets. I printed everything at Staples because I did not trust proof that could disappear behind a password. Then I bought a 3-ring binder, tab dividers, clear sleeves, and a pack of pens. Grief had turned me into the kind of woman who organized betrayal by category in aisle 7 under fluorescent lights while somebody nearby argued about coupon policy. Timeline, financial records, travel confirmation, phone logs, message fragments, probate documents. Mom's letter. I kept the binder in my tote bag beside cough drops, a black pen, and the Walmart receipt from when I bought paper plates for mourners. That part mattered to me. The ordinariness of it. Disaster still has to fit around errands. By then, Linda and I were talking strategy. We could go straight into formal probate conflict. We could file first and let everything hit Vanessa at once. Or we could wait 48 hours and let her walk herself into the family gathering she had personally suggested for Remembrance Sunday. A family stage. A clean room full of witnesses. Vanessa wanted unity. Fine. I would use her lighting. Mom's church held a remembrance luncheon every year for families who had lost somebody in the previous 12 months. Sheet cake, paper programs, casseroles that arrived with condolences tucked under foil. Afterward, Vanessa told everyone we should gather at the house to sort what remained before Labor Day. Gay, she said Mom would have wanted it handled with unity. When liars use the word unity, what they usually mean is, don't make me face this in direct light. The morning of the gathering, the house smelled like lemon cleaner, crock-pot meatballs, hot dust, and grief that had sat too long in upholstery. Sun came through the blinds in faded stripes. Aunt Cora brought deviled eggs. Uncle Roy parked his truck half on the lawn like he always did. Beth came early and hugged me so hard my shoulder hurt and didn't say a word. That mattered more than speech. Vanessa arrived 20 minutes late in a cream blouse and gold hoops, carrying bakery cookies and a smile made for witnesses. Ethan, of course, was nowhere to be seen. Men like him never step onto the stage when consequences start collecting. And the family spread through the living room and dining room. Mom's framed choir photo sat near the probate folder. The jewelry box was still on the table. Open now, impossible to ignore and somehow still unnamed. People talked around it. Furniture, dishes, property taxes, freezer contents, Christmas lights in the attic, the old stand mixer. Who needed what? American grief loves logistics. It makes people feel useful. It keeps them from saying the main thing. I had expected nerves. What I felt instead was stillness, a very sharp kind. Enough quiet can become a weapon if you carry it long enough. Vanessa touched my arm lightly when she passed. You look tired. I slept fine. She blinked once. Tiny thing. Important thing. After a while, when everybody had enough food on paper plates and enough false normal stacked around them, but Vanessa did exactly what I knew she would do. She made a speech. Before we divide anything, she said, standing near the dining table with one hand against the chair back, I just want to say Mom loved both of us differently but equally. I know the last few days have been painful. I don't want suspicion or old resentments poisoning this. Poisoning. Such a careful word. She was framing herself as the antidote while the toxin was still wet on her hands. Then she turned to me with sorrow arranged just right across her face. Amelia, if there's anything you need to say, this is family. There it was, the elegant trap. Confess now, in the language of healing. I stood up slowly, picked up my binder, brought it to the table. Good, I said. Then let's do family. Nobody moved. The vent rattled. Betta's spoon tapped the sink in the kitchen. Outside, a lawnmower droned somewhere down the street. The world kept being ordinary while mine sharpened. I opened the binder to the first tab. Vanessa told several of you I had access to the necklace, money problems, and emotional instability. She said or implied those things before the necklace was even reported missing. Vanessa gave a little offended laugh. This is not healthy. On August 14th, I said without looking at her, Vanessa asked Beth whether pawn shops report cash transactions and whether old jewelry needs appraisal paperwork. Beth nodded. Her voice came out small but steady. She did. Vanessa turned to her too quickly. Beth, seriously? Marisol heard it too, I said. Then I placed Beth's notarized statement on the table. That changed the air. Not dramatically. More like a room suddenly realizing it has been standing on rotten wood. I turned the page. On August 16th, 2 days before I discovered the necklace missing, a necklace matching Mom's was pawned at Crown Gold and Loan. Uncle Roy frowned. Matching? I slid over the transaction hold summary. Seller ID, Vanessa Kerr. Aunt Cora's hand flew to her mouth. My grandmother leaned forward, then leaned back like distance might change print. Vanessa's voice sharpened. That is not proof. That could be anything. I laid down the still image from the pawn shop next. Grainy. Time-stamped. Vanessa at the counter. Hair up. Cream tank top. Mom's necklace in her hand. And then the room changed. Not emotionally at first. Structurally. As if all the weight shifted in one direction and the house itself had to adjust. Vanessa stared at the image, then at me, then back at the image. Her mind was moving fast. I could see it, still calculating whether outrage could save her. I was going to buy it back, she said. With what money? You don't understand what was happening. I understand the payout was $3,800. I set the payment record beside the image. And I understand that same amount went to a Miami booking under your name. Now Aunt Cora sat down hard. Beth looked at the floor. Uncle Roy said Vanessa's name once, low and disbelieving, like he was testing whether he still knew who it belonged to. Vanessa grabbed the edge of the table. I needed space. Oh, Mom had just died. Did Ethan Doyle need space too? That landed exactly where I aimed it. Her head snapped toward me. For the first time all day, her face dropped the careful softness completely. Aunt Cora whispered it before anyone else could. Ethan? Her boss Ethan? I set the booking confirmation on top of the stack. 2 guests, 1 room, oceanfront. Vanessa's composure broke then. Not fully, just enough to expose the metal underneath it. You went through my private life? I looked straight at her. You sold our dead mother's necklace and told people I stole it. Uncle Roy shoved his chair back. The scrape cut across the whole room. Did you frame your sister? Vanessa looked at him, then at me, then at the papers. This was the moment I used to imagine in pure anger. I thought it would feel good. It didn't. It felt surgical, necessary. I opened the final section of the binder. Mom left a handwritten letter. The necklace was supposed to pass to me. The locket contained information tied to her final wishes and the tax reserve for this house. That drew a different kind of silence. Not scandal, consequence. I laid Mom's letter down last, because truth needs order. Aunt Cora started crying. Real crying, messy, immediate, not arranged. My grandmother took off her glasses and wiped them with shaking fingers. Uncle Roy sat back down like his knees had lost confidence. Vanessa shook her head too fast. She changed everything. She always changed everything for Amelia. There it was. The actual voice. Not grief, not panic. Scorekeeping. I met her eyes. So you stole from her? I was owed something. Then ask the estate, I said. You don't invent a crime and hand it to me. She looked around the room for backup. That was the part I had wanted most, not the proof, the witnessing, watching the family face themselves long enough to see what they had done. No one moved to save her. Beth spoke before anybody else. Her voice shook, but she said it. You told me Amelia would take the blame before it even happened. Vanessa whipped toward her. You don't know what you heard. Beth held her gaze. I know exactly what I heard. Then Aunt Cora, through tears. I asked Amelia to confess to something she didn't do. Uncle Roy looked at the floor. I searched her bag. My grandmother closed her eyes and pressed her mouth flat. Shame rarely knows how to speak right away. But Vanessa tried tears next. Thin ones. Angry ones. You all think Amelia is some saint now? She was always Mom's project. Always the one everybody had to rescue. And there it was again. The old hunger. Not for love, for position. I heard Mom's voice so clearly then it was almost physical. Some daughters want love. Some want witnesses. I looked at Vanessa. And you were always the one who needed an audience. Her face went blank. Not confused. Struck. She knew then that Mom had seen her, that I knew Mom had seen her, that all those years of polished surfaces had not fooled the one woman she used as a backdrop. Some people don't love the family. They love being believed by it. I pulled out the printed message fragment last and set it on top of everything else. She'll take the fall if it comes up. Nobody needed me to explain that one. Vanessa lunged for the page. I slid the binder back before she touched it. Copies already went to the estate attorney. That was the lock. Not yelling, not threat. Process. Her shoulders dropped. Not in remorse. In collapse. She had run out of angles. I was in debt, she said finally. Then say debt. You don't know what it's like. That almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was insulting in such an ordinary way. I know exactly what it's like to be broke, I said. I also know what a pawn slip looks like. Then the rest came out of her in pieces. Credit cards. Pressure. Feeling overlooked. Feeling like Mom favored me at the end. Ethan promising the trip would help her think. Wanting one thing for herself, wanting one weekend. Wanting not to be the daughter everybody took for granted. Every motive arrived sounding uglier for being so ordinary. Nothing she said made it cleaner. Nothing she said turned it into grief instead of choice. Aunt Cora whispered, Lord help us. And still no one rushed to comfort Vanessa. That silence said more than a scream could have. Eventually she picked up her purse with hands that had finally started to shake for real. You're all acting like I killed her, I answered before anyone else could. No, I said. We're acting like you used her. She left through the front door without taking the bakery cookies. I watched through the hallway window as she walked down the cracked front path in those careful sandals, shoulders stiff, face turned away in case neighbors were watching. August heat was pressing down over the yard. Cicadas screamed from the trees. The little flag on Uncle Roy's truck antenna flicked once in the wind and went still. After she left, Nobody seemed to know what to do with their hands. The house didn't feel healed, just stripped, honest. Aunt Cora apologized first. Full sentence. No excuses tucked into it. Amelia, I was wrong. I chose what was easy to believe. That mattered. Uncle Roy apologized too, rough and embarrassed and looking everywhere but my face. I treated you like a suspect in your own mother's house. Beth hugged me hard. My grandmother took the longest. She sat looking at Mom's choir portrait for a while before she said anything at all. Then she whispered, I let old stories do new damage. That stayed with me, because it was true. The weeks after that were not dramatic, no music swelled, and no one transformed overnight. It was paperwork, phone calls, court filings, copies, expense. Linda filed the emergency motions through probate court. The pawn shop hold kept the necklace from being resold while the estate claim moved forward. Vanessa hired a lawyer for one angry meeting, then stopped showing up with the same confidence once the documents held. Ethan Doyle vanished from the company website before Labor Day. Men like that know how to step sideways and call it privacy. The necklace was recovered eventually. It came back in a padded evidence envelope that made it look smaller than memory had kept it. The clasp was bent. One link near the locket hinge was stressed. Even returned things come back changed. I opened the locket at the kitchen table with the afternoon light slanting in, and there it was. The hidden paper sleeve. The folded note with the account information just where Mom said it would be. And a second tiny photograph I had never seen before. Mom as a little girl sitting beside her own mother on a porch swing, both of them squinting toward the sun. I cried then, not dramatically, not with speeches, just enough to let the ache inside my ribs loosen for a minute. I kept the house. Not because it was easy, because I wanted one thing not to be surrendered. I used the tax reserve exactly the way Mom intended, refinanced at a miserable rate, picked up a second remote job doing billing support at night from the old sewing room, and started fixing what I could with whatever I had left. I changed the vent filter, repainted the dining room, repaired the upstairs banister, sorted the cabinets, labeled the probate folders. Life after betrayal is rarely cinematic in the way people imagine. Mostly it is receipts and repair dust and trying to sleep through ordinary sounds again. Vanessa texted me twice that fall. The first said, I hope you're happy. The second said, Mom divided us long before I did. I didn't answer either one. By Thanksgiving, the family was trying hard in that distinctly American way that means too much food and careful avoidance. Aunt Cora asked me to host because her oven was broken. Uncle Roy brought folding chairs. Beth made green bean casserole. Nobody invited Vanessa. Nobody said the sentence out loud either. Absence sat at the table like another place setting. I wore Mom's necklace under a plain sweater and never mentioned it. After dinner, while I was washing dishes in warm water that smelled like dawn and turkey fat, I looked out over the dark backyard and thought about how many things family can mean in a single lifetime. Shelter, performance, obligation, wound, history, sometimes all in one room. Being believed late is still a lonely kind of victory, but it is a victory. Christmas came with half-working lights, old ornaments, and a check from the estate closing account. I found Mom's handwritten memorandum tucked inside a cookbook box Vanessa must have missed. The necklace, the china, the cedar chest, the choir pin. Mom had been exact. Not cruel, exact. Sometimes love looks that way on paper. I framed one line from her letter and hung it in the hallway where the afternoon light hits hardest. You know the weight of keeping things together. And for a long time I thought that sentence meant sacrifice, swallowing, absorbing damage, being the daughter who keeps the table set while everybody else throws things. I read it differently now. Keeping things together does not always mean keeping the peace. Sometimes it means bringing the truth in whole. Sometimes it means refusing the lie everybody else can live with. Sometimes it means putting proof on the table and letting comfort fend for itself. By the next 4th of July, I hosted the backyard barbecue Mom used to love. Grocery store buns, paper plates, too many sparklers for the kids. Uncle Roy overcooked the burgers. Beth brought a Bluetooth speaker and played old Motown while fireworks popped from 3 streets over. At one point, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window, hair tied back, necklace at my throat. My house behind me, my own face looking steadier than it used to, not softer, clearer. People ask me sometimes if I ever forgave Vanessa. They ask it in that careful church basement voice people use when they want a prettier ending than life actually gave them. I don't walk around full of rage. Rage gets heavy, then dull, then boring. But forgiveness is not the same thing as re-entry. She lost access to me. That was the cleanest consequence I had to offer. Months later, I heard she moved out of state. Florida for a while, then maybe Texas. The details changed depending on who told it. Her life became rumor again, which suited her. Distance can look a lot like innocence if you stand far enough away. I stayed. And I stayed with the split-level house and the crooked hall frame and the rattling vent and the metal filing cabinet full of probate paperwork. I stayed with Mom's recipes in the kitchen drawer. I stayed with the knowledge that I was never easy to blame because I was weak. I was easy to blame because other people found my rough edges convenient. That will never be true in the same way again. She tried to bury my name with our mother. All she really did was uncover her own.